Almost 2 weeks ago, I created a sourdough starter from scratch, and today I am going to bake a bread with it. I'm very excited because this is going to be something that I haven't done in such a long time. Of course, I bake bread all the time with my sourdough starter, but this one I literally created less than 2 weeks ago. As you can see, it is active and it's ready to be used. So now I'm going to weigh out about 100 grams of sourdough starter that I am going to be using in this recipe. This bread recipe is going to be made up of 450 grams of all-purpose flour, 325 grams of water, 100 grams of this active sourdough starter, and 9 grams of salt. So I'm going to just spray this, which is going to act like a little bit of a lubricant for the sourdough starter so it can easily slide out into the bowl. I'm going to weigh this out right now. It's going to be about 100 grams. All right, about a little bit more. 99.7, 100, okay, 100 grams. I have 100 grams of sourdough starter that I weighed out here in this bowl. And now I'm going to add some water to this bowl right here. I'm going to add all of my water to this bowl. Then I'm going to add the sourdough starter into the bowl. Okay, so I have the sourdough starter here in the bowl, and you can see if I lean this over, you'll be able to see it floating. If I lean this over, you'll see it floating in here. That's called the float test. And if it passed the float test, you know that it's ready to be utilized in a dough. So I'm going to mix this up. I'm going to mix up the sourdough starter into the water. And once it's fully diluted into the water, I'll begin adding my flour. Alright, so now I'm going to start adding in my flour. Personally, I just add like a little bit at a time, and then I'll mix it. And I'll just kind of take it a little step by step. Add a little bit of flour at a time, same step. But I'm just going to make sure it gets incorporated. What I'm using right now to mix this flour is just a whisk, dough whisk. You can get this on Amazon or any kind of baking store, Sourdough table. And usually when you get something like this off of Amazon, it'll come with a couple extra items. Like you can get a combo with a Bantam basket, you can get a Bantam basket, maybe a lane all together in a packet. I'm sure that you'll find something that will be incorporated as a package off Amazon. So as I continue to mix little by little, it's starting to get incorporated. This mixture is a 75% hydration. So 75% hydration is the total hydration. And the way that I calculated that is because I have 100 grams of starter. So 50 grams of starter is going to be flour and 50 grams of starter is going to be water. With that being said, I'm going to subtract 50 grams of water and 50 grams of flour from each of the flour that I weigh out and from the water that I weigh out. And then I can accurately say that the total hydration of this dough is 75%. So now I have all the flour poured in here, and I'm just going to continue mixing it. Now, earlier this year, I finally got all of my ducks in a row to begin a enterprise that I always wanted to do, which is start a micro bakery. And this year seemed like it was a perfect time to do that. This current situation is it's starting off slow. It's not like all of a sudden business is booming. I'm doing a little bit of orders every time, but I enjoy doing it. I really do. And the ability to serve the clients that I have with bread that's very much cared for and put together nicely, that's special to me. I really value that they trust in me to provide them with a quality product, because this bread that I sell is not going to be the cheapest bread, but then again, I put a lot of care into the bread that I make and provide. So I have salt in here because it's a little more coarser. I'm going to use this to this mortar and pestle to grind it up a little bit, make it a little more fine. And then once I do that, I'm just going to pour it in. Then I'm just kind of mix it in some more. This is definitely a workout. It's just about fully incorporated. And now that it's fully incorporated, I'm going to let it rest for about maybe 30, 45 minutes. I'll start timing it. I'm beginning this process in the earlier afternoons, about 1:15 right now, 1:15 p.m. I don't know if you've ever thought about eventually doing a micro bakery, but if you have, I highly suggest you do, because everyone deserves good bread. And the quality of bread at the supermarket is not the same as the bread that you can make here at your house. I highly recommend making sure that the ingredients that you use are very whole and very much researched. I love working with stone mill, organic type flour, and just making sure I'm serving up a bread that is not only cared about, but also highly nutritious, as much as it can be. So now that I have mixed it up and I have the dough together, I'm gonna let it rest for about 45 minutes, like I said, and then I'm gonna perform maybe 4 sets of stretching folds, maybe less. It really depends on how the dough looks. So if the dough is coming together nicely and it's looking like a nice silky smooth dough, I'll probably do less. Another thing you want to look out for is the structure. If the dough is maintaining a nice structure, then you know that you're probably done doing the stretch and folds and you can leave it for the rest of bulk fermentation. I am going to set a timer so I can be tracking it accurately. If you don't have a kitchen timer, I suggest setting it on your phone. But at this point in time, it's 1 o'clock now. I'm going to give it, I think, about 7 hours from now, I will be done with the bulk fermentation. And that's at the temperature of my house right now at about 70 degrees. I really take the time to track my bakes, the bulk fermentation and different metrics about the bake, because what I have learned that tracking that makes you a better baker. So if you don't already have like a piece of paper, a journal, a Excel spreadsheet, Google Sheets, I highly suggest that you track metrics. Some things I would suggest tracking is the ingredients that you use, the brands you use, the temperature of the dough. Although I'm not going to be taking temperatures and being so strict right now, I highly suggest that you do, because it plays a big factor in the fermentation process. Based on the water that I use and the flour that I use and the house temperature, I'm pretty sure that I know the dough temperature is going to be around 72 degrees. Matter of fact, let's hold me to the test, and I'm going to test it right now. So my guess is that this dough temperature is 72 degrees. So I have this thermometer, and we're going to see if how accurate I am. Okay, so I'm 1 degree off. So I pretty much know what's going on. And the reason why, see at 72.5. And the reason why is because I track all of my bakes. That way I have a better intuition about what's going on. So that's why I highly suggest you do that, so you better know and can learn your dough. I've been doing it for years, and it's a great practice. I'm going to cover the dough with a wet towel, and I'm going to let it rest for about 45 minutes. Okay, it's now time to perform the first set of stretch and folds. It's been about 40 minutes, And you can see what the dough looks like. It still looks like kind of like it did before we started stretch and folds, because we haven't started to build up the strength. And the way to do that is to doing a couple rounds of stretch and folds. Now this dough is going to be kind of sticky. 75% hydration. It's kind of a high hydration. I might suggest going a little lower, like maybe 65% hydration, but this is 75%. And it can be hard to work with. It might stick to your hands a little bit. You see I got dough on my hands. So a way to avoid this is by keeping your hands wet. So if I spray my hand with some water and I rub it together so they're both wet, then it doesn't stick as much. So I highly recommend doing that. So I'm going to spray my hands and I'm going to perform a stretch and fold, probably 3 times. Do it until your heart is content. I'm going to do 3. So I'm going to pull it up like this, fold it on over itself. I'm going to turn the bowl about 180 degrees. Get my hands a little more wet. Pick it up, down. Then I'm going to do the top, up, down. I'm going to turn it one more time, up and down. And then maybe I might lift it up underneath of itself, slam it down one more time, and slam it down. And that's all I need to do. So I'm going to cover this dough back up, and I'll tend back to it in another like 30, 45 minutes. All right, now it's time for the second stretch and fold. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to get my hands a little wet so I can easily handle this dough. And I'm just going to lift it up and drop it on over itself. Turn it from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Really just do it 180 degrees and do it again. So I turn the bowl 180 degrees and I'm lifting it up and doing a stretch and fold and another stretch and fold, and then one more. So as you can see, the dough is coming together really nicely. I'm really happy with it, and it's building up strength. So now I'm satisfied with the stretch and fold number 2, and I'm going to tackle this one more time in about 30-45 minutes. Alright, this is round 3, stretch and fold. The dough is coming together very nicely. It's starting to become more smooth. I'm going to get my hands a little wet, and I'm going to do another set of stretch and fold. So I'm going to come and pull it up and fold it on top of itself. 180 degrees, do the same thing. And now this is just personal preference. I could do another stretch and fold this way. I also could come underneath, pick it up, do a coil fold. So that's picking it up in the center, lifting it up, just dropping it. And if I slam it down with a little bit of force, it will become, you'll see, it'll become a little bit easier to work with, and it'll start to get a little bit smoother. It won't stick as much. And yeah, so that builds up some gluten as well. And that's what we're doing. This is gluten development. So everything is good to go for right now. I did some stretch and folds, and I feel that this third round definitely built up more gluten. And I'm going to do another round of stretch and folds, probably at least 1 or 2. And then I'm going to let it go for the remainder of the bulk fermentation. Okay, so it's been about 7 hours, and that's good for the bulk fermentation process. The dough's looking nice, and now I'm gonna let it bench rest for probably about 10 minutes. Then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna place this in the Banson basket. So here's our lovely dough that has been bulk fermenting for some time. And just kind of give it a rough shape. Get into a nice ball. Alright, so I'm going to leave this right here, and then I'm going to be shaping it one more time, the final shape, and I'll place it in the Banson, then into the fridge, And then tomorrow, bake it. Now the dough has been resting for about an hour now, and it's going to be put in the fridge after we do a shaping. This is the final shape. I have some flour in here, and I'm going to take, you can use your hand. I got this right here. This just kind of dusts the flour on top of the dough a little more evenly. So I'll put a little bit on top. And I'll also put a little bit in this basket. Shaping the dough is very easy, honestly. I'm going to show you a very simple technique. First, of course, wet your hands to make it more easy to work the dough. Go on underneath. And you're going to flip it over. Once you flip the dough over, kind of just pull it over a little bit to kind of make a, I'd say like a rectangle. Okay, so now you have a rectangle, and I'm going to take one side of the dough. I'm going to pull it out a little bit and fold it over halfway. Now that it's halfway, I'm going to take the other side, pull it over and fold it on top. Now I have it kind of like a burrito, and I'm just going to now come from this side and just roll it like this. Now I have this. And now all I'm going to do is just kind of pull it towards me. I'm going to come out, pull it towards. Now that it's shaped like a bread, I'm going to pick it up. Here's the Bantam basket. I'm just going to put it in. Once it's in, I'm going to leave it in here and put a cover on top and put it in the fridge. I feel like a shower cap. These shower caps tend to work really well. So tomorrow we're going to bake this bread, and I'm very excited to see how that starter, less than 2 weeks old, does when we bake the bread. I can't wait to see the oven spring and how it's going to turn out. I really don't know. I don't know what to expect. Okay, the time has come to bake this bread, and I'm going to do it in a Dutch oven. So I'll put that Dutch oven into the oven, and I'm going to let it bake for probably about 40 to 45 minutes, maybe even more, depending on how brown I want to get this bread. So here's this bread. I have it in the Bantam basket. It's been in the fridge overnight. Piece of parchment paper. I'm just going to set it on this parchment paper. I had this preheated in the oven, so it is hot. And I have gloves that I'm going to be carrying it with because I don't want to burn my hands. I'm also going to put a little bit of ice into this Dutch oven, which is going to create steam. So here's the bread. It's been sitting overnight. This is a lame I got from King Arthur, and I'm just going to use this to put a nice slit into the bread to release the tension as it rises. So here we go. I'm going to make that cut, and I'm going to kind of go through again. That's good. Now I'm going to put this into the Dutch oven, and then I'll take this Dutch oven, put it into the oven, and bake this bread. So I'll put this into the Dutch oven over here. So I put the bread into the Dutch oven, and I'm going to take a piece of ice, put this ice right on the side. You'll see it start steaming. I'm going to cover this up, and it's going to be, this is hot. I'm going to transfer this into the oven. I transfer the bread into the oven. I'm going to bake it 20 minutes lid on. Then I'm going to do another 20 minutes with the lid off. All right, let's go take a look at this bread, see what it looks like. This is the first time I'm baking with that brand new starter. And now, 3, 2, 1, reveal. Not a bad loaf. It's the first loaf with a brand new starter, less than 2 weeks old. Definitely not mad. I'll put it in, let it bake for another 20 minutes. So this is the first loaf that I baked with that new sourdough starter that I made less than 2 weeks ago. And I think this bread looked pretty good. I would say that it's pretty consistent with a starter that might be a year old or 6 or 12 or as I see sometimes 100. I'm I'm really looking forward to cutting into this bread, taking a look. But most importantly, I'm very excited to cut into this bread and taste it. So here's a loaf. This is what the outcome was from the brand new sourdough starter that is less than 2 weeks old. And I would say that it made a nice bread. It's soft, it's got a nice ear, and I'm excited to cut into it and just see what it looks like in the center. Cuts really nicely. So this is a young sourdough starter, less than 2 weeks old. And let's see what it looks like in the center for the Crumb Shot. I'd say it's not that bad. I'm happy with it. I would eat it. I'm going to eat it. I'm going to eat it right now. So I'm going to cut myself a nice piece and let's see how it tastes. I love sourdough bread with a little bit of olive oil or some cultured butter. This out the way. All right. Put some nice olive oil. Let's give it a try. Looks so good. Matter of fact, let's see. That sound that air bounce right back up. I can't wait. I got a week's worth of bread. Well, maybe a couple days worth of bread. We'll see. So I'm gonna try this bread. It's delicious. I couldn't even tell you. Some people I see online talk about a starter being so old, 100 years old, 130 years old. And I mean, that's cool, but this was less than 2 weeks old and it tastes delicious. Doesn't have any type, I couldn't tell you, oh, this is a 2 week old starter. I would have said this is a 100-year-old starter. I can't tell. All I can tell is that this is delicious and I love it. That just means you could, just go about your day, make a sourdough starter for your own. In 2 weeks, well, actually 5 days, you'll have your starter. And then you can make bread like this with a starter that's so young. You definitely have to give it some time to mature. So it might start rising in 5 days. I'd still continuously feed it for another 5 days or 4 days, maybe even just 3. The key to making a nice loaf is time and temperature. If you got those 2 factors down to a science, your bread's going to turn out just fine.